This is update for January 13, 2024, day 689 of the war, end of the date update. Also catch up for January 11 and 12. So I'm going to start today with general and strategic updates. As you can see, it's going to be Taiwan as the results. We just got the results. So first, I would like to say that despite pro-independence president winning, the situation is actually not so, I would say, rosy. It's actually quite opposite of being rosy. It's in a way very misleading indicator. So just for those, but before that, I will just gonna explain for those who don't know much about Taiwan. The green one is pro-independence, sort of pro-Western aligned party, and then the blue one is actually pro-China, China-aligned party, and then this turquoise color is, I would say, closer to the green than to the blue. I would say much closer to the green. Why I'm saying that the presidential election are very misleading indicator, because it's hugely driven by the individual sort of popularity of specific person. So you can even see that the persons from this TPP, which is in Taiwanese People's Party, which is basically a left party, he won significant number of votes, and if you compare that to the parliamentary election, you can see it's a tiny, it's pretty small result. There's nothing special. So I wouldn't even look at this results. The most important results is actually parliamentary results, where you can see that actually the pro-Chinese side actually has a slight majority over clear pro-independence, pro-Western part. Yes, this turquoise, if you combine those two, you probably have sort of majority. But as you can see, that this means that society in Taiwan is deeply split, because also there were, I think, 72% of eligible voters showed up. So, which also means that the society is, there's a tension in society, and it's sort of important matter for the society. And so, as I stated, this really means the society is split. And the way I would say probably China reads this is that society is not willing, it will not be able to put up a fight, effective fight. Because when you have 50% of the population that's not willing to fight and potentially joining the invading forces, that's really meaning that from military perspective, execution is not going to be that hard, and there won't be strong resistance as a whole. There will be surely some pockets and so on, and some, let's say, heroic things, but in general, the fate is sealed from military perspective. The bigger question is actually really about China being ready. So, in other words, Taiwan is totally ready to be invaded. It's in ripe and perfect condition. That's how I would read it from Chinese perspective. The bigger problem is China itself and its own readiness to actually invade. We'll probably have seen all of this dismissals of various military commanders in China. All this really means is that the Chinese military is in really terrible shape, quality-wise. Maybe quantity of forces obviously there because it's a big country and so on, but the quality simply is not there, and which also means there's a lot of incompetence. And so that might be sort of gating factor why China is not, willing to actively, invade. And this is not the only factor, obviously. But if we look at sort of internal situation in China, that is very clear, very, very limiting factor. And I some time ago I explained why China is struggling with its military before is because it's a cultural situation where if you are serving in military in China, it means something is wrong with you. It's not, military cannot attract high quality people, and then everything else stems from there. So China has a big problem, and you cannot fix it, overnight in 3 months, as in 6 months, and so on. So this is balances this sort of situation in Taiwan, which is, as I said, super ready. Like it could not be better. Let's put it this way. It's almost like how they compare, saying that it's like a hot knife in the butter. This is such the situation like where Taiwan is right now. So as I said, there is problem with the Chinese military with execution. There's obviously problems with the Chinese economy and general situation in the country. And then actually, I'm going to discuss that next. Is there was statistics for the foreign trade, which basically export plus import out of China for 2023. It barely grew. It's essentially stagnating. It's up only 0.2% relative to 2022. And the total value was roughly 5.9 trillion US dollars, which is roughly third of Chinese GDP. So as you can see, third of GDP is not producing much. The real estate bubble, which is another probably 25 to 30%, is broken as well and probably deflating and actually creating negative situation. So China is really not in good economic position, very vulnerable. And it might be another reason gating item for this invasion, because if you are invading, you want sort of either major powers be super dependent on you, so you can put basically economic pressure to shut them off when the export and import are not growing, and probably even, and for example, as in the case of the US, it's shrinking. You're losing leverage. You're losing economic leverage, and that reducing your diplomatic leverage to protect, political leverage to protect against repercussions due to the invasion. So again, this is the situation is sort of like there are pluses and there are minuses in both directions, and basically it's not a clear-cut picture. Let's put it this way, but this elections are clearly negative from Taiwan independence and sort of Western prospects in the region. Let's put it that way. And then next topic I would like to discuss a little bit Russia, what's going on internally in Russia. I just want to give some statistics about average salaries in Russia and pensions and so on. So median actually salary, which median means like there is exactly half of people above, half of people below, which actually much better metric than averages. And for that reason, it's rarely used because it's much more revealing. Let's put it this way. But nevertheless, there is this number which is median, which shows that the median salary in Russia is roughly 550 US dollars per month, and the average is actually, that's why it's misleading, is roughly $800 per month. So as you can see, there is which indicates that there is, I'd say, problem in distribution of income within society, that where there is a relatively small minority, earning much more than the rest of the society. And I'm not stating that earning in honest way is wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. The reality of let's say Russia and Ukraine is the same. Is there are artificial barriers or uncompetitive barriers that enable this. That this is sort of not natural order of things, and that's where the problem with all of that. In terms of pensions, rough like average pension in Russia is roughly 270 US dollars, and there was actually a poll in Russia among the pensioners what their dream pension is, and dream pension is 440 US dollars per month. So just give you how to say give you a feeling about how society like actually lives inside of Russia. And the other important metric is demographics. So there is a new numbers for the newborn for Russia for 2023, which actually hit new bottom since the fall of the Soviet Union. The number of newborns in 2023 was 1.2 million. The similar low number was hit in 1999, 1.2 million, when a Russian president came into power. And the other important metric, then it was rising basically till I think 2014, where it hit 1.9 million newborns in that year. Just for the reference, during Soviet time, Russia would have between 1.9 to 2.2 million newborns each year. So you can see how 1.2 is really horrific number. And even more interesting is actually that despite trying to sort of state that the war is not not taking toll on Russian society, is actually taking huge toll, as you can see, because decline started in 2014. When the war started, between Russian invasion of Ukraine started in 2014. For those who don't know much, much about the background of the conflict, and then the number of newborns was basically declining, and started really nosediving in about I think 2019, 2020, which obviously related to COVID as well, and then the war sort of finished off the whole situation. So again, these numbers are very, very negative, horrific, and this also reflects that the population does not perceive that the well-being is, the economic situation is getting better for the average person. Is very clearly not the case, despite all of this positive GDP growth numbers that coming out of Russia, which I believe is mostly statistical gimmicks, or expenses on the military expenses, which is sort of from a perspective of well-being average person, it's huge waste. It's very extremely negative. So now let's actually switch to the situation on the battlefield in Ukraine. As a summary, I would like to state that the Russian activity, Russian pressure noticeably picked up. I would say that it's back to the pre-New Year numbers, and it's getting stronger and more aggressive. Let's put it this way. It's very quick pickup. How quickly it jumped from the very low levels is actually very interesting and surprising. But I'm going to walk through in a clockwise fashion through the front line, and you'll be able to sort of get a better feeling of it. So first, situation along the state border remains more or less the same. Nothing special is going on there. Now let's jump to the North Lugansk front line. Things here, as I stated, a little bit picking up. There's Russian pressure from the northeast towards Kupiansk, and then typical areas of pressure. This effectively Ukrainian bridgehead on the eastern side of this. I don't even remember the name of this small river here. But so far, Ukrainian forces are holding the defensive positions. Now let's look at North Donbass front line. Things here actually, northern sector quiet. Southern is actually surprisingly as well, and even I stated that there is significant pickup of activity. It's not happening in the northern Donbass area. Now let's jump to the central Donbass. Things here, as this is where they back to sort of high level. This Avdiivka salient, continuing Russian pressure. Nothing, no major advances by Russian troops here. And then again, strong pickup in Russian pressure out of this, let's call it Marinka salient on the Russian side. Is very clear desire to sort of advance further, basically create bigger salient, and apparently create opportunity to squeeze Ukrainian troops down the road. And as I stated, the pressure here is on the rise, and very quick rise. So far, no Russian advances here. Now let's look at Zaporizhya front line. Things here are also changing in some ways. Typical Russian pretty weak pressure around this Robodino salient, but there's strong pickup in Russian pressure around Vuhledar area, which was quiet for quite a while. And if I were to go and look at all of this from a sort of big picture strategic perspective, it looks like Russian command is seeking down the road probably major sort of opportunities towards south of Donetsk in this direction where I'm showing, towards from area of like Vuhledar towards Pavlograd, and then it's probably desire to basically recapture this area around Siversky Donetsk that was lost by Russian troops, and it's possible that Russian forces may try to attack towards Kharkiv from this side, from the north of Kharkiv at the same time. So basically, this is just very hypothetical at this point, but it seems like there are two sort of key areas of tension. One is sort of straight west of Donetsk and towards the south. And then the other one is this North Luhansk front line. Now let's look at what's going on along the Dnipro River. Things here are more or less the same. Russian troops attempting to destroy Ukrainian bridgeheads, pretty weak attempts, meaning in terms of actual infantry attacks. I'm not talking about the artillery shelling and bombs and so on. So there is never a shortage of that. I'm talking about actual infantry attacks that can actually lead to some results. So this definitely pick up an activity here, but so far it's not that strong, and Ukrainian forces are holding on. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye bye.